Every day Han pushes himself to the limit with non-stop training, because in this world only survival matters. His training intensity is unmatched. He must keep pushing his limits just to stay alive. Han is only a one-star hero, and in this harsh reality, a hero meets death in just two ways. A hero can fall either in a monster battle or by being merged with another hero. All one-star heroes are treated as expendable. Their basic stats are weak, and they have no special skills. If Han wants to survive, he must grow stronger, so he keeps forcing himself through the pain. He strikes over and over, determined to outshine every other one-star hero and avoid being merged. But Han was not always a hero. Not long ago, he was the master who decided the fate of these characters. His real name is Han Seojin, and he somehow found himself inside a game that revolves around luck. The game is called Pick Me Up, and the main goal is to reach the 100th floor of the tower using careful strategy. Han used to be an ordinary player who spent thousands of dollars, but never managed to raise a hero above 5 stars. One day he heard about a new dungeon that dropped a book capable of raising heroes to 7 stars, so he entered right away. In this game, heroes cannot be revived after death. It is permanent. He sent a recon team of 5-star heroes to scout, but they were terrified the instant they stepped inside. Han ignored their fear, caring only about obtaining information on the dungeon's boss. Han pushes forward, and before he knows it, a shadowy figure appears and wipes out his entire party. The enemy is at level 999, shocking Han, who assumes it must be a game bug. As he stares at the screen, the figure suddenly turns toward him, smiles, and declares it has found him. In the next moment, everything goes black, and all Han can see is the account creation window. Someone creates an account called Anytang and starts the tutorial so quickly that Han has no time to think. Suddenly, Han finds himself in the middle of a burning town being raided by goblins. Talk about being thrown into the fire. Yikes, that's a hot welcome. A goblin charges at him with a blade. Even though it feels like a dream, Han instantly knows this is real. He dodges the attack and strikes back, killing the goblin in a flash of energy. After finishing the tutorial, he steps into the familiar pick-me-up base and wonders if he is trapped inside a game. A system window informs Han that he can summon an additional hero for free. Han watches a blinding light appear as a 4-star hero is summoned into the base. He looks on, shocked, wondering if he too was summoned into this game like her. The girl introduces herself as a knight named She Lathister and asks Han who he is. Han forms a party with her and sends them to another dungeon. Because of the huge stat gap, the knight leaves Han lagging behind. The final stage of the tutorial is the synthesis process, and Han knows he must finish it now or be stuck. Suddenly, a fairy appears and orders him inside the building. He calls her by name, leaving her completely shocked. She asks who he is. When he tells her his name, she flips through the record books with disbelief. Han does not match any record they have. Realizing the mistake, the fairy starts screaming in panic. It is too late to change anything. Despite his protests that he will die, the fairy orders him to enter the portal. Han is forced into the portal against his will as the synthesis process begins. The synthesis lets a player combine 2 heroes, boosting one of them using a special altar. One hero must be sacrificed. Han reaches out in terror because the other hero is a powerful 4-star knight. The player foolishly selects the 1-star hero and sacrifices the powerful knight instead. Han is confused by the decision, but soon he is teleported into a waiting room. The survivors look lost and desolate, standing before massive walls with no idea where they have been sent. Talk about being clueless. The group includes ordinary people, like a farmer, all trying to make sense of their desperate situation. Suddenly, a tiny fairy appears and tells them their master has opened a gate of time and space. She explains she oversees this area and that they must ready themselves for a fight immediately. A former mercenary ignores the fairy's warning and aggressively demands to know who brought them here. When the fairy ignores him, the man draws his sword to threaten her, but she only gives a sinister smile. The fairy decapitates the man instantly, and a system notification coldly records his cause of death as suicide due to stress. The crowd screams in horror, but the fairy reminds them she acted in self-defense. As the crowd panics, the system starts organizing the survivors into formal parties. The first party of 5 heroes forms, each paralyzed with shock and fear. The fairy points the group toward the glowing gate, but Han steps forward with a request for her. Han tells the one-star heroes they must choose their weapons carefully, because entering without gear would be suicide. The fairy realizes Han is right and opens a notification window to guide them through the selection process. As Han speaks, one of the men asks if he is familiar with this place. Han simply replies that he does not know much because it has been a long time since his last visit. The red-haired girl wonders if he has done this before, while he urges everyone to grab their gear for the battle. Panic spreads through the group because none of them have ever fought before. As they nervously approach the gate, they notice the fallen mercenary's body has vanished. The fairy shouts for them to stop wasting time and enter the gate immediately. While entering, the red-haired girl notices Han is only carrying a low-grade wooden shield. Han ignores her questions and tells her to focus on killing the enemies ahead. Silence is golden in battle. System notifications suddenly appear, confirming the deaths of the heroes who just entered. The girl asks what is happening, but Han sternly tells her to be quiet. The fairy becomes enraged by the poor performance and furiously calls for the next party to step forward. An old man in the party starts making excuses about his weak bones, but the girl pulls him away. Inside the gate, they find a temple that serves as a teleportation hub to the first floor. Han shouts at everyone to stay focused, because the real challenge is about to begin. In the next moment, they are transported to a vast field, where a pack of goblins watches them from a distance. 3 men from their party nearly lose composure and try to run away. A system notification reveals they are terrified, reducing their stats by 30%. The red-haired girl immediately recognizes there is no way out because of an invisible wall. She asks Han if killing the goblins is their only way to survive. Han confirms it, and the two decide to fight together. Since she is a hunter, she takes the ranged role while he charges forward with his sword and shield. Despite appearing calm, Han has never actually experienced a real fight in his life. He wonders if the player made a mistake during synthesis or was simply foolish enough to choose him. In any case, Han is lucky to still be alive in this chaotic battle. One of the goblins bites his shoulder, but he quickly crushes the creature with his shield. Han knows this involves a level 999 shadowy figure that watched him. After a tiring fight, they finally manage to slay all the goblins in the field. The girl worries about his wounded arm, but Han assures her it is fine because they will heal at the base. Talk about a quick fix. In this game, there is no player control during fights, so heroes must fight on their own. It is popular because players can observe this world like gods. Han used to play this game frequently and was the 5th-ranked legend named Loki. As the stage clears, the girl gains a level and the stage rewards are announced. Han is named the most valuable player for that stage. The first stage proved deadly for many participants. It finally concludes, leaving only 2 survivors, Han and the red-haired girl. As time passes, Han slowly adjusts to his new reality, accepting that whining or complaining will not change anything. He chooses to face the situation with a calm mind, understanding that he has been summoned into a game-like world called Pick Me Up as a 1-star hero. In this world, heroes have 2 possible fates. They can die in battle or be merged into another hero if the master deems them useless. He knows he must get stronger quickly to avoid being erased, so Han throws himself into non-stop training. His 1-star status gives him low base stats and slow growth, meaning he cannot afford to waste a single moment. Even after reaching level 5, he keeps pushing himself. The harsh workouts remind him of his military days. He understands that survival requires both physical strength and mental discipline, treating this world as just another battlefield. While finishing a set of push-ups, the archer girl Jenna approaches him and asks what he is doing. He simply replies that he is training to fight monsters. Jenna admits she has also accepted that escape is impossible. She picks up her bow, explaining that her father was a hunter, which is why she knows how to use it so naturally. To demonstrate her skill, she shoots an arrow straight into the target with perfect accuracy. Han is surprised by how talented she is. When he checks her status window, he sees she is already level 2. She has basic archery skills and has already invested the stat points earned from the previous battle. Even though Jenna received fewer points than Han, she possesses a strong mentality and a unique skill. More importantly, she recovered quickly from the trauma of watching people die, a feat many find impossible. Han is impressed and agrees to help her grow stronger. He's ready to be her training buddy. She reaches out, explaining that her father taught her the importance of teamwork. After a short pause, he shakes her hand, and a notification pops up confirming that she is glad to team up with him. Later, he calls to the fairy. She materializes in an instant, looking clearly annoyed. She snaps that she will not answer any more of his questions, but he asks if he is the only one who can see the status window hovering over her head. She freezes for a moment, looking confused, as her status window plainly displays her at level 257. When he points it out, she claims it must be a system bug. He is unconvinced and becomes certain that only he can see it. He asks what would happen if the master quit the game. The fairy grows angry and tells him to pray that such a thing never happens. When he asks if time flows differently here than on Earth, she erupts again. He takes her shout as confirmation and even thanks her. He remains calm, knowing the fairy cannot harm him unless she is defending herself. He decides to keep learning about this world piece by piece. He knows that if he fails to adapt, he will be eliminated either by death or by merging. When the archer girl asks what they were discussing, he explains that the only way to escape is to clear all 100 floors of the tower. The master issues commands through the fairy, and if they fail to complete their missions, they die. The girl realizes that means many more battles lie ahead. He agrees, which is why he trains so hard. Their lives depend on that one person they have never met. By now, he has learned several basic rules of the game. Food and daily necessities restock automatically. If he imagines something he wants, it appears in a drawer. However, weapons such as guns cannot be summoned. He also learns that training does not raise his level, it only improves his skills and stamina. Soon, the master will judge the heroes in 3 categories: mentality, skills, and physical strength. He knows he fits best in the physical category, so he pushes his body to the limit. For 3 days, he trains without rest. When the master finally logs back into the game, he feels confident because he has unlocked 2 new skills. The master summons 3 new 1-star heroes to complete their party of 5. The newcomers panic the moment they arrive, refusing to believe they must fight monsters so soon. What a rocky start. On the master's command, the fairy opens the dimensional gate. When the new heroes resist, the fairy knocks them out and hurls them through the gate herself. The party arrives on the 2nd floor with the goal of defeating all enemies. The newcomers are terrified by the sight of level 4 wolves and level 3 goblins. Their intense fear instantly drops their stats by 30%. Even the archer girl looks nervous, so he gives her a shake-up. He tells her to handle the goblins while he takes on the wolves. The new heroes are too scared to move, leaving the 2 of them to fight the monsters alone as 2 wolves charge at him. He blocks with his shield and counterattacks, but the wolf does not die because his sword is of poor quality. Despite that, he manages to slice the wolf in half with brute force. Suddenly, he senses another wolf leaping at him from behind. He blocks with his shield, but the clever wolf jumps away. Seeing an opening while the wolf is mid-air, he rushes forward and kills it. The intense fight leaves him exhausted and sweating. Immediately after, he checks on the archer girl and sees she has overwhelmed the goblins with arrows. He tells her she can stop now because the goblins have already been turned into hedgehogs. A notification appears announcing that the stage is cleared. Both Han and Jenna have leveled up. Han is named the stage MVP before the group is transported back to the lobby. Suddenly, a new notification tells them to prepare for stage 3, and the whole area begins to shake. The girl panics as he explains they are being sent directly to the 3rd floor. He looks at the 3 helpless new heroes and wonders what the master is thinking, sending them to a harder stage while they are so unprepared. Harsh teacher vibes. Just as he starts to doubt their chances, the master logs out of the game. Seeing this, he feels a wave of relief wash over him. Just then, the fairy appears, complaining that she is extremely tired. He reminds her that they were the ones doing the work and notes that the next floor is the 3rd. With the master logged out and time moving 3 times faster in the lobby, they will likely have about 3 days before he returns. He checks his status window and sees he is now level 6. He feels his strength and physical ability steadily improving with each level. As he puts his weapon away, he sees the 3 new heroes shouting at Jenna, aggressively demanding to know why they have to fight. He thinks to himself that all 1-star heroes are just ordinary people with no combat experience. He understands why higher-level heroes look down on them. He remembers how the knight seemed prepared and was even smiling when she left, noting that 3-star heroes are different and ready for battle immediately. The archer girl approaches him, exhausted from dealing with the newcomers, and asks him to help them. He refuses, calling them trash and saying they will die soon. Toby, one of the new heroes, approaches him and aggressively grabs his collar. Angered by the provocation, he punches Toby hard, leaving him in terrible shape. He argues that while he was fighting and bleeding, the others did nothing, and their judgment is coming soon. The next day, he and the archer resume their training. His dedicated weapon practice raises his sword and shield skills to level 2. Meanwhile, the 3 other heroes skip training entirely, searching for a way to escape. The girl practices her archery by firing arrows at him, who dodges them with his sword. One arrow hits his leg, causing her to worry. He assures her that wounds heal quickly in this world. They watch as the injury closes. From constantly enduring this pain, he gains a new pain tolerance skill. As they continue sparring, his constant efforts cause his sword and shield skills to merge. He acquires the basic sword shield technique, which immediately reaches level 3. The next day, the master logs back in, and the fairy appears to address the group within the settlement. The fairy yells at everyone that they must enter the lobby immediately when monsters appear, or they will face great danger. The girl admits she is somewhat glad for the break, as training all day was exhausting. Meanwhile, the 3 new heroes are shouting again, complaining about wanting to go home and eating nothing but potatoes. Hearing this, the fairy completely loses her patience and becomes dangerously angry. Potato panic. She punches 2 of them so hard that they are sent flying, declaring she will report them to the master. She continues to beat them as they scream for help. Afterwards, the master sends the group back to the 3rd floor. There, they face even stronger goblins. The original duo prepares to fight while the other 3 heroes stay in the back. Due to his intense training, he easily slashes through the goblins without any problem. It is the same with the archer girl Jenna, who even manages to secure the MVP title for the battle. Jenna steps forward and looks at the 3 other heroes, noting they seem unwilling to help. He says it does not matter to him, as he does not want to share any experience points with those individuals anyway. A hero who does not participate in the fight receives no experience. Following a tip from the fairy, the master decides to make them redo the 1st floor. They are all teleported back to the 1st floor, where standard goblins appear and rush to attack. The archer effortlessly kills them all with her arrows and becomes the MVP. This causes the master to immediately make them repeat the stage. He clears the level and becomes the MVP, but clearing so many floors in a row has left him and the girl exhausted. Jenna complains that she cannot continue and wonders how many more times the master will force them to repeat the same stages. After a long and tiring day, they finally go back to the lobby. They are not happy having to babysit the other 3 heroes. Fortunately, the master decides to open the synthesis chamber, signaling an end for any heroes deemed useless. He explains that the master can observe everything from the outside, monitoring who fights and who remains lazy. The fairy arrives and instructs the archer girl and an older hero named Elson to enter the synthesis chamber. Realizing he is facing death, the man begins yelling at him, protesting that they were brought there against their will. Despite his complaints, he is forced inside as the gate closes, and the master confirms the synthesis. The man screams and begs for mercy as his body slowly dissolves into light while the process completes. As a result of the sacrifice, Jenna levels up and obtains the powerful skill called Eagle Eye, sharpshooting upgrade. She emerges from the chamber in a state of confusion, asking what happened to the man who vanished. He explains that this is a place where useless people are sacrificed, causing the 2 remaining men to panic. The fairy then announces that the next pair to enter the chamber is him and a bearded man named Toby. Toby looks utterly terrified, having no idea what is about to happen to him. Once inside, Toby begins to shout frantically, asking if he is finally being sent back home. He plays into Toby's delusions, so he can die peacefully as the synthesis completes. He levels up from the merger and gains a new skill called composure. As he walks past the last surviving man, he lets him know that it is his lucky day. The archer girl finally understands that useless people are sent inside to be erased. She worries about what will happen if she herself becomes useless to the master one day. He replies that the monsters will only get stronger, and so must they. He warns that she must grow stronger, or she will eventually be sacrificed. He reminds her of her father's advice to always stand on the right side. Hearing this, she realizes she must stay with him. The next day in the training area, she approaches him and bows. She formally asks to be under his care from now on. He knows that there is something unique about this girl. He tells her that if she keeps doing what is necessary, she will not die. As they talk, the blonde man approaches and asks to join them, apologizing for his past cowardice. He begs them to teach him how to fight. He asks why they should trust him. He kneels before them, trying to show that he is serious. Seeing this, the protagonist nods and hands the man a spear to begin his training. He explains that a spear is the easiest weapon for a newcomer to master. He talks about combat ranges, saying swords and daggers belong to close-range fighting. He adds that spears cover mid-range, while bows handle long range, completing the team's options. Raising his own sword, the protagonist challenges the blonde man to an immediate duel. The blonde man freezes in panic, but the protagonist lunges, admitting he cannot teach spear techniques because he never learned them himself. He says he taught himself swordplay and expects the blonde man to do the same with the spear. Motivated, the man gathers courage to strike back, but he accidentally does so with his eyes closed. The protagonist easily kicks him in the stomach, reminding him that fighting blind is unwise. The blow leaves the man reeling, and he begins vomiting on the floor. He coldly remarks that if he were a monster, the man would already be dead. The archer girl steps in, saying the protagonist is being too harsh for a first-day lesson. Refusing to waste time, the protagonist presses his sword to the man's throat and asks about his family. The blonde man admits he has a little sister waiting at home. The protagonist urges him to imagine her fate if he were to die. That harsh motivation lights a fire in his eyes, and the protagonist smiles approvingly. Back in the lobby, a notification pops up. The master has added a weapon storage and a blacksmith. New items appear in the storage, giving the group the ability to craft their own gear. The protagonist summons the fairy, who appears angry and asks why he is ordering her around. She gets even angrier and tries to strike him, but her attacks have no effect on the calm warrior. He suggests that her tips to the master show she can use the internet. She admits browsing the web is her hobby, talk about a digital fairy. He points out that it is common knowledge, referencing an official post by the most popular player, Loki. She teases him, calling Loki a master of masters and a god of the game, making it clear she is a huge fan, who knew game fandom could be so intense. He asks why she admires Loki so much. She replies that he can turn the impossible into possible. He says he feels sorry for her. The fairy, seething, demands to know what he just said. He looks her in the eye and declares that he is Loki, the so-called master of masters. The fairy freezes at his words, but he calmly replies by giving his private account number. She goes completely silent the moment she hears it. Account numbers are highly private for anti-hacking reasons. He even offers to show his Google account if she still doubts him. She quickly checks the number, insisting his claim cannot be true. After confirming the details, she flips her reaction, shouting excitedly and begging the protagonist for an autograph. She says having Loki's signature would make her the top member of the Loki fan club. He finds the idea interesting, but admits he never knew such a club existed. She panics, realizing she has been rude. The protagonist tells her not to worry, reminding her he is only a one-star hero right now. He starts writing while she reflects on his past, wondering what will become of Niflheimer without him. She interrupts, asking what has happened to Niflheimer now that he is here, but he replies he has no idea. Niflheimer is the personal lobby on his main account where all the heroes live. It has 13 floors and can hold nearly 20,000 heroes. The lounge already has buildings at levels 18 to 22, housing almost 2,000 people. The fairy asks what will happen to them under the protagonist's command. He says if she worries so much, she should just send him back. She admits she cannot do that. The protagonist already knows why. She is only a mid-level administrator and lacks that authority. He asks whether the summoned heroes are AI or real people. The fairy confirms the master is a human player and the heroes are real humans too. The protagonist realizes the master probably does not know this, seeing them only as game characters, talk about a clueless player. He asks whether reaching floor 100 will let him return to Earth. The fairy says she does not know. He plans to climb the tower anyway. He asks how much control she has, and she says she can only help with basic functions and maintenance. Climbing towers is his new cardio. He asks if all players' lounges are the same. She confirms they are mostly identical, making him ponder. He realizes that if every player has a lobby, there could be over 1 million separate worlds full of real humans. He understands that when he used to play, he was controlling real people, and any small mistake could have killed them. He says he will help her climb the tower if she listens, and they move to the training area where the archer practices. Her growth is lightning fast. Nobody would believe she is only a 1-star hunter. Remarkably, she had never even held a dagger before today. The blonde guy, however, is struggling badly. The protagonist worries that at this rate, he might not survive long. The archer girl says she did not push him that hard, yet he still collapses. The protagonist tells them not to get cocky and to follow his lead. He tells her not to worry about him and just follow his lead. Suddenly, a fairy appears and scolds the archer girl for staying too close, loudly declaring she is the #1 servant. The archer girl refuses to back down, insisting she is the true #1. Their argument spirals, and the fairy starts cursing. The protagonist quickly steps in to hush the fairy. Their bickering continues until the group finally reaches the storage room. He asks the fairy to open the door, and they step inside. He discovers a massive hoard of C-rank materials. He asks the fairy to open the forge, prompting the archer girl to wonder what he plans. He explains he wants to use every single item. He realizes something important. Because he is half hero, half master, part of the system listens to his commands. This status gives him access to restricted areas usually reserved for a master. He enters the forging room and examines the furnace. The system is in auto mode, flashing warnings about missing blueprints and experts, leading to a terrible success rate. He instantly switches the system to manual mode. The fairy watches in shock as he selects the toughest crafting difficulty, called Extreme Hell. The fairy gets nervous, knowing failure at this level brings harsh penalties. He calmly tells her to just watch him work, talk about hardcore crafting. Crafting requires finishing tough minigames. The system tells him he has only 3 minutes to build a sword from tiny blocks. He locks in and starts grabbing the tiny blocks at lightning speed. The fairy whispers that his hands move like a god's, watch out, he might break the speed limit. Within moments, the sword is finished. A notification announces a huge success. He crafted a C-rank weapon from scrap. He keeps crafting a spear and a shield with surprising success. The fairy asks if he will make more, but he says no. He explains that if too many new items appear at once, the master might get suspicious of their activities. The scene shifts to the 4th floor, where the archer girl fires arrows rapidly. One arrow strikes a goblin squarely in the head with a burst of light. She says her new bow feels amazing and worries others might try to steal it. The protagonist assures her the exclusive weapon feature will keep it safe from theft. Now they also have to face flying monsters. He tells her to handle the aerial threats while he deals with the ground goblins. He tells Aaron to protect her, and Aaron vows to do his best. Suddenly, the flying monsters attack. Aaron panics, swinging his spear wildly while screaming, and his fear drops his stats by 30%. He keeps panicking until the girl rushes over and slaps him hard. She warns him that if they fail even once, all 3 will die. Her words snap him into focus, and he finally calms down. Together, the 3 clear the stage. Later, the spearman is exhausted and in bad shape, fearing he will be merged with someone else if he stays weak. A system message pops up, showing Aaron has been added to the favorites list. The protagonist also gets added to the favorites list. Han tells him this means he will not die anytime soon. He is over the moon, literally. He becomes ecstatic and starts shouting in celebration. The archer girl remarks that the hero's first subordinate succeeded, and even his second subordinate is doing well now. Looks like the underlings are thriving. The protagonist asks what she means, since she seems to be calling herself his servant. He walks away, sheathing his weapons, thinking his real first subordinate is not here. That person is in Niflheimer, named Cirrus. She and 4 other heroes were originally under him when he used to play. He thinks maybe he will meet them again in the future. Since he quit, Cirrus has probably taken over the entire lobby. Yernith is also there and can manage everything too. As he thinks this, the scene shifts to the top floor of the Niflheimer lobby, where two girls stand together on a high platform. Yernith walks over, asking Cirrus if she is really leaving. Cirrus answers that every second counts. Cirrus says she will handle all investigations and tells Yernith to find out where the master is as soon as possible. After the meeting, Cirrus departs, leaving another girl to oversee the whole lounge. The new lobby has hit level 2, so all structures begin expanding and upgrading one by one. The archer girl notices the upgrades and marvels at how everything suddenly looks better. The blonde man wonders if their master is some kind of magician to cause such rapid changes. The protagonist clarifies nothing magical happened. The master simply invested money into the lobby. He wonders if the master is watching their reactions now, feeling proud of the hero's enjoyment. Maybe the master is binge-watching their moves. The master has no idea the heroes are real people, not just digital data, even as their rooms keep improving. The fairy arrives just as the protagonist notes the master seems to follow a fixed routine, office hours, even in a fantasy. He notes the master probably has an office job, as the login and logout times never change. The fairy shows a pile of crystals and gold, remarking they are lucky the master is not a broke student. The protagonist knows players can only get gems by spending real money in this game. A brand new system notification appears, telling everyone that up to 10 newcomers might show up any moment through summons. As the crowd turns toward the gate, the hero explains how basic summons differ from the advanced ones. A confused group steps out of the gate, asking where they are, while the hero watches. The hero suddenly raises his sword at one of the men and orders everyone to stay quiet. He refuses to explain gently and declares that they all must survive on their own. The fairy calls out to the newcomers, asking if anyone is a carpenter, blacksmith, tanner, or cook. The archer girl whispers to the hero, urging him to find out what is happening, and he replies that the fairy is just assigning roles. The lobby has facilities that need trained workers, so anyone with useful skills is being separated from the rest. The fairy keeps sorting everyone into specific roles, forming a second party of roughly 4 people. Some of the new heroes carry swords. The hero explains that the master sends anyone considered useless into combat to test their abilities. Soon, the fairy sends all members of the second party into stage 1 and tells them to hurry inside. The gate opens and they walk inside, but one person dies instantly. The hero watches and comments on how fast the life was taken. The archer girl thinks they should have explained things first. The hero disagrees. The hero argues that there is no point in explaining anything to people who die on the lowest stage, because they are completely useless. Another newcomer named Teddy soon dies as well, leaving the group silent. Seeing this, the fairy begins assembling the next party. Everyone is terrified after witnessing what happened to the last group. The blonde guy walks up to the fairy and says he wants to fight alongside them. She tries to stop him, saying it is not his fight, but the hero tells her to let him join because he needs more combat experience. She sends a request to the master, stating that Aaron wants to join the party and asking if the master will accept. The hero steps in and warns Aaron to help others, while also reminding him to protect himself. He probably wishes he had a coffee break. The man assures the hero that he understands his responsibilities and moves forward. Meanwhile, the archer girl stretches and complains that she wants to eat something real because the master only gives them potatoes. The hero tells her to look at the sky because the master is watching their every move. The archer girl becomes frightened, but the hero reassures her that the master can only see them and cannot hear them. Their words only reach the master as filtered messages, appearing on his screen as cold text notifications. Soon, the rookie party clears stage 1 successfully, and all of them survive. The hero asks Aaron how many goblins he killed, and Aaron replies that he killed only 1. The hero is satisfied because he followed his role correctly, so he suggests heading back with the others. When they reach the dining area, they are surprised to see it has been upgraded. The archer girl is excited because it feels like they will finally get to eat meat. The hero watches them, feeling they are overly happy. However, when the cook brings strange-looking food, no one wants to eat it. The cook says he did not have enough ingredients, which makes the hero suspicious. The hero checks his status screen and sees that the cook's name is Dolph. Dolph has no cooking skills at all and realizes he has been caught lying. The hero approaches a girl named Chloe and tells her she will handle cooking from now on. The fairy asks the master for confirmation, and the master approves the change. Chloe looks nervous, but accepts the role while the hero warns Dolph never to lie again. The new cook starts cooking and prepares a proper set of dishes made from potatoes. The food looks appealing and tasty, delighting the group. While they eat, the hero explains how things work and reminds them they must stay vigilant. He jokes that it looks like a pizza party, just kidding. The archer girl tries to lift their spirits, sharing that she did not know how to fight before arriving. Not all heroes are assigned as fighters, because the settlement needs people for other roles too. Workers still need to train, because they can always be replaced by those who are more skilled. The next day, another group of heroes is summoned, but it consists only of young boys. The hero immediately starts training with the boys as they struggle to keep up. The archer girl and the blonde man train with their own special weapons at the same time. The boys are exhausted and beaten, but the hero still thinks they are better than the ones hiding. Days pass as more heroes are summoned, leading the archer girl to wonder when they will clear the next level. The hero tells her that the master is still selecting the party, because difficulty rises exponentially at the 5th stage. The 5th stage feels like a boss level, and even the hero is not sure if he is strong enough to survive it. Instead of moving forward, the team returns to the 4th floor to practice. The hero stays back and guides them through the fight. He tells them not to break their formation. Though none of them is strong enough alone, they can be useful if they work together. The hero wants them to get stronger because he might need their help in the next stage. It is still unclear what kind of mission they will get. The party celebrates after successfully clearing the stage. Seeing their excitement, the archer girl smiles and tells the boys they did well. For the first time, the hero agrees with her praise. As time goes on, their master begins to log off for longer periods. The new summons include a blacksmith and a tanner. They set up a workshop in a rustic wooden building to support the team. The new workers start crafting E-rank swords for the newcomers. Meanwhile, the elite party keeps the rare C-rank equipment for themselves. 3 people are synthesized during this period, including the fake chef from earlier. Several more days pass until it is finally time to enter the 5th floor. The hero asks the fairy for confirmation, and she agrees that they are ready. He gives the fighters a short speech, warning them not to lower their guard. In an instant, the party is teleported into a ruined city. They find themselves in a narrow alleyway surrounded by a glowing blue energy shield. Who needs a map when you have chaos? Because they cannot see any monsters, the hero suspects this might not be a standard subjugation mission. Tension among the group begins to rise. Suddenly, one of the boys spots a slumped skeleton and starts screaming. The discovery puts the entire party on edge. To scout ahead, the hero asks the archer girl to climb the tall, damaged stone watchtower. He watches her with a determined expression. When she reaches the top, she freezes in shock at the sight before her. The others notice her distress and call out to ask what she sees. She manages to speak, reporting that a massive horde of goblins is marching toward the city. A system notification suddenly flashes before their eyes. The mission objective is clear. They must survive against a wave of over 1,000 goblins. The hero knows they cannot waste a single second. He orders her to come down and assures the team they only need to survive for a set amount of time. They try to enter a building for cover, but find the doors are locked. A red barrier appears, warning them they cannot enter the area. With their luck running out, a 30-minute mission timer appears. They desperately search for a defensive position within the ruins as the massive horde approaches. Running out of time, the group finally stops at a narrow passageway so they will not be attacked from all sides. There are 3 possible approaches for the goblins. The hero decides to take the left side. Aaron is in charge of the right, while Guide and Hansen will guard the back passageway. Moreover, they will fight in turns to avoid burnout. The archer girl is on standby to support everyone. The hero suggests building a barricade, and they all get to work. Looking at the timer, he realizes it is synchronized with real-life time. This means they have to stay alive for the entire 30 minutes. It is not long before the first goblin appears. The timer starts instantly, and the goblin charges at them. They still have not finished the barricade, but now is not the time to worry about that. As more goblins join in, the hero shouts at the group to block the passageway with the corpses of the fallen goblins. Han follows a simple pattern of blocking and attacking, which seems to be working well. The blonde guy, however, seems to be struggling. He asks if they really need to survive for only 10 minutes. With 26 minutes left, the hero gives him false hope. 10 minutes feels like eternity when you are low on stamina. The hero says he would never lie to him. Either way, the hero is not prepared to die in a place like this. As the goblins close in, he shouts for Guide to switch places with Hansen. The guy insists he can continue, but the hero forces him to obey. The hero knows he is struggling because of his low level, weak stamina, and poor technique. He is using too much energy killing every goblin. Meanwhile, Han keeps killing goblins with perfect precision. In his mind, he repeats the rule, 1/1 kill. He aims for minimum stamina and maximum efficiency. But the goblins keep coming without fear, as if their only purpose is to die here. The hero demands another switch. Guide quickly picks up his shield and sword, while Hansen moves to the weak spot in their formation. The hero then calls out to the archer to help Guide. The hero tells the girl to support the man and collect the arrows she shoots. She gets excited because she has been waiting for some action. The hero explains that her job is to finish off any goblins that break through their formation. Meanwhile, the spearman continues slicing goblins, but grows impatient. The spearman asks if the 10 minutes are up. Sweaty and exhausted, the hero reveals that only 5 minutes have passed. The girl keeps firing, telling the hero to stay low and keep moving. Suddenly, a goblin blade slices his arm and blood pours out. A notification warns that the hero is bleeding and losing health points. He shouts for the other man to take his spot and ignore his injuries for now. Guide cries from the pain, overwhelmed and shaking. However, the hero snaps him back to focus, asking if he plans to let everyone die. The hero feels guilty and apologizes. He tells the girl to stop the bleeding, and she quickly bandages his wound. He forces himself back on his feet despite the pain and unleashes everything he has, charging through the goblins like a raging storm. The hero wipes the enemies out as fast as they appear, but the goblins become more aggressive. Suddenly, the man on the front panics. The man's sword has completely lost its durability. The hero asks the wounded boy if he can switch again, and even though he is still hurting, he agrees. The hero orders Hansen to fall back and repair his sword, knowing it is just a normal iron weapon. The hero grabs one of the shields and keeps killing goblins. He tells the group to keep fighting even if they cannot use their swords. Remember, teamwork makes the dream work. Their formation kept changing nonstop, and the hero gritted his teeth, announcing that only 3 minutes remained, even though it felt endless. The spearman and the archer girl switched positions again after just 10 seconds, and the hero told the wounded boy to swap places with the other man. He told the archer girl to shoot every arrow she had, because if the monsters broke through that side, everyone would be dead. The archer riddled several goblins, but before anyone could switch, a monster drove a blade into the wounded boy's stomach. The boy fell to his knees, blood filling his mouth, then collapsed. A notification warned the group that Guide was on the brink of death. The archer girl froze in fear as the warning flashed. She considered drawing her sword, but worried it would kill him instantly. Meanwhile, the friend was overwhelmed and begged for a 30-second switch. The hero battled desperately, using everything he had to hold the monsters back. Seeing their formation crumble, the hero asked Hansen to swap with him and to stop worrying about his friend for the moment. Suddenly, a notification announced that Guide had died. Seeing this, the hero shouted at the archer girl to forget the dead and help him deal with the goblins. As she fought, her swordsmanship skill rose to level 3. She frantically asked how much time they had left, but he yelled at her to keep slashing. The hero also leveled up all his combat skills, though he realized it would not matter if they died. Unfortunately, the other boy was also struck, bleeding as goblins closed in. The boy begged for help as monsters slashed at him. The hero knew their formation had shattered, so he ordered the whole group to stay with him. They fled the alley, sprinting to buy a little more time. The hero spotted a house and told the girl to start climbing the wall. She hesitated, fearing he wanted her to escape alone, but he assured her he would follow right behind. The hero stopped stabbing and switched to wide cleave attacks, dropping goblins one by one. The girl finally reached the top of the wall, and the hero followed right behind her. Phew, that was a close climb. Now it was the spearman's turn to climb, but a goblin suddenly drove a blade into his leg. Without hesitation, the hero leapt back down and slashed the monster that had wounded his comrade. He quickly decided they had to amputate the limb and slice the man's leg off, spraying blood everywhere. The man screamed in agony, but the hero stayed focused solely on their survival. The girl thrust the spear to block the climbing goblins, but she suddenly dropped the weapon and screamed in panic. The hero ordered her to kick them back with her legs, reminding her they only needed to survive 30 more seconds. While the hero was busy giving orders, a goblin managed to reach the top and drove a blade into his stomach. Blood gushed out as the goblin struck again with a dagger. The archer girl was also wounded, her health dropping fast, and she let out a scream of intense pain. Everything froze as the hero wondered if he would die on the 5th floor. A wave of frustration and unfairness flooded him, mixing anger with despair. Something inside the hero snapped. His eyes turned red and his aura surged overwhelmingly. He charged forward with raw power, declaring the fight was not over yet. He began slashing goblins at incredible speed as his body shifted into a primal, demonic state. The hero awakened his berserker skill, seeing the goblins as nothing but worthless trash. With newfound fearlessness, he fought on fiercely, despite the intense pain coursing through his body. He swung so hard the sword shattered, yet it still did not halt his relentless assault. He fearlessly dove in with the broken blade, just as time finally ran out. All the monsters froze instantly. A demonic goblin had been about to stab him at point-blank range when the world stopped. The archer girl also stood frozen in shock, surrounded by motionless monsters. Even the spearman, who had been on the brink of death moments earlier, survived thanks to the timer. What a close call. After the brutal fight, the 3 of them emerged victorious, and the system rewarded them with gold, iron ore, and other rare materials. They were then whisked back to the waiting room. For the first time, it seemed even the hero had been scared for his life. The party finally caught their breath after the intense battle. The archer girl laughed, relieved they were still alive, and asked the hero to help her up. The hero offered her a hand and confirmed they had truly made it out, now that they were back in the waiting room. The girl asked if the next stages would be as hard as this one. The hero explained that this had been a special case. The 2 boys in the party hadn't been strong enough, which was why they came so close to dying. The archer girl looked down, saying she understood, but deep down she felt a bit of regret about letting them die. After they returned, a friend of the 2 boys greeted them and excitedly asked where they had been. The hero bluntly told him they hadn't made it. The guy couldn't believe what he heard, but that was the harsh reality of this world. Without delay, the master called for the next party to arrive. Meanwhile, the hero dropped onto his bed and reflected on what had happened. He did not get overly emotional about deaths in this place. As someone who fought on the front lines of the tower, the hero knew death would become routine. In the back of his mind, he wondered whether he truly had received the berserk skill. He thought about how composure and berserk contradicted each other. Composure kept him calm, while berserk gave power but stole control. The hero wondered if this odd combination happened because he had somehow become both a master and a hero at once, but he chose not to overthink it. The next morning, the hero went to the training ground and saw the archer girl already practicing her dagger skills. He asked why she was already there, since she was usually late. She replied that she simply didn't want to die. The hero noticed she had gained a new skill after the battle. In contrast, the spearman hadn't received any skills despite working hard. As for the hero, his growth cost was fixed at 5, a normal rate for a 3-star hero. Since he was near the maximum level for a 1-star hero, his next goal was to become a 2-star hero. Level up vibes. While he was doing handstand push-ups, the girl walked over and suddenly brushed his abs, making him uncomfortable. He immediately asked her to move her hand and quickly pulled his shirt back on. She complained that his muscles didn't even look tired. The girl kept surprising him. They had survived a near-death fight just yesterday, and she was already acting like nothing happened. The hero suspected the other man was sulking in his room, still affected by the deaths of the 2 others who had been close to him. The hero felt a bit of regret for losing 2 hard-working heroes. He reflected that Jeed and Hansen could have been useful if they had more time to train. For a brief moment, the hero wished those 2 had survived instead of the current losers. Listening to the hero, the girl suggested they focus on their training for now. At that moment, their friend arrived at the training ground and apologized for being late. The hero noticed his friend's guilty expression and wondered what was wrong. The man quietly admitted that if he had been stronger, the 2 who died would still be alive. The hero replied coldly that they died simply because they were weak. By now, he had spent at least a month in this world, which equated to about 10 days in real time. From what he had seen, he could guess his master's login pattern. The master logged in 3 times a day, as time on Earth flowed 3 times slower. In combat stages, time flowed the same way as in real life. Suddenly, the fairy appeared and told everyone to learn from the hero. She was truly impressed that he had cleared the 5th stage with such a trashy party. When the girl asked why the fairy behaved that way, he told her it was a business secret. Meanwhile, the fairy scolded everyone angrily for resting while she had worked so hard. Fairy drama. The hero replied that it did not matter since those heroes always appeared when called. The master formed a new party, pairing the hero and the archer girl with 3 new heroes. The girl was worried because they hadn't met these people before, but the hero assured her things would be different. As they stood in the waiting room, he noticed that the daily dungeon had been unlocked. A man approached him with a scared expression, saying they wouldn't be able to do much compared to him. The hero asked for the man's name and assured him it was fine since they wouldn't have to do much. The party finally entered the dungeon, their primary mission to collect materials. A system notification explained that the dungeon type would differ depending on the day of the week. The girl seemed slightly confused because there were no enemies in sight nearby. The hero explained that this particular dungeon was designated for gathering materials. All they had to do was find items and toss them into the portal, which he called the trash bin. They could then use the collected materials to craft new weapons and equipment. Upon hearing this, the archer girl asked if she truly didn't have to fight any monsters. The hero told her it was different for her, and the 2 of them ventured deep into the forest to hunt for food. They came across a mystical deer, and the girl shot it down without any trouble. She rushed over excitedly, using her hunting experience to gather the meat. The hero advised her to toss all the materials into the portal, while he headed out to find something specialized. He stopped by a cascading waterfall and noticed they only had 30 minutes left on the clock. Fortunately, he found the rare monster he had been after, known as the Queen of the Forest. The creature drops a low-rank attribute stone, which the hero needs to upgrade to 2 stars. The hero does not waste a second and slashes the 2 monsters guarding the queen. The queen looks massive, but the hero smiles and eagerly accepts the challenge. Soon, the hero carries the creature's head back to the group, who scream, mistaking it for an attacking monster. The archer girl is shocked to see such a gigantic deer head presented as a trophy. The hero asks her how many she caught, and she says she managed to hunt 2 deer and a boar. The girl wonders why the hero only brought the head, but he explains the horn could not be cut off. She easily chops through the horn, unlocking an impressive new skill. The system confirms she has become the hunter of the forest. The hero receives an elemental stone that can be used for crafting items or promoting a hero. Back in the lobby, everyone is excited to finally eat meat again. After finishing their meal, the hero leads the girl away as he prepares to enter another daily dungeon. With the new day arriving, the dungeon shifts to the Sinmeal Plateau. The girl gazes at the changing surroundings in absolute awe. She wonders if they can truly become stronger just by gathering materials. The hero replies that they will use elemental stones to gain more strength. The hero ignores the view and focuses on a nearby rare life plant used for healing potions. Soon, the 2 of them encounter and hunt down a giant wolf, a wild dinner plan indeed. He tells her to quickly dismember the carcass before the rest of the pack arrives. This time, the hero receives a valuable water elemental stone. Looks like he's getting soaked with loot. The girl seems to enjoy herself, doing tasks she excels at. She wishes life could always be this simple, just hunting and gathering without a master to serve. This sentiment hits the hero deeply, because he used to be a master himself. He wonders if the heroes in his own lobby share her feelings and asks whether she is tired of fighting. He tells her that she can find other roles in the lobby and will not be synthesized. The girl jokes, asking if he is planning to make a special spot just for her. She then asks why he does not do the same for himself. That question breaks his serious composure, and he smiles. Several days later, their master forms a new party to venture into the 6th stage with Dika. The hero realizes this is an exploration mission and orders everyone to stay low. The 3 of them immediately drop to the ground and stay hidden, meeting the mission's requirements. The group spots a cluster of aggressive goblins ahead, one of them carrying a horn. The discovery puts the hero on high alert, suggesting a goblin village is nearby. From a tree, the archer girl scouts and reveals an entire village populated by over 100 goblins. The hero quickly devises a plan to eliminate them without letting them alert their allies. He tells the rookie member to serve as backup if the situation spirals out of control. When the ambush begins, the archer girl swiftly takes out the goblin on the right. Panic spreads among the remaining monsters, and another is speared through the head instantly. Goblin chaos indeed. The last goblin desperately tries to sound the alarm with its horn, but the hero steps in and decapitates it. Immediately after the battle, the system announces the floor is cleared and reveals that the hero is the MVP. MVP vibes. He receives 5,000 gold as the party prepares to be teleported back. The new guy looks confused, thinking the quest is over, but the hero rushes ahead toward a possible clue. The hero is convinced that thorough exploration will reveal critical information about future challenges. He understands that even if dungeon events are random, small details can still be predicted. He eventually reaches a large fortified goblin village, where he watches them restraining chained wolves. Peering through cracks in the fence, he realizes the massive scale of the settlement. Suddenly, a guard senses his presence, but finds only fading blue particles as the party is transferred to the waiting room. The archer girl questions his sudden departure, but he explains he was merely investigating the surroundings. The hero reminds himself that main dungeons often provide hints before linked quests begin. He realizes this exploration marks the true beginning of the mission. The arrival of something called a stream depends entirely on the master's attentiveness. The hero becomes irritated because he does not know if the master observed the same anomalies he did. It feels too early for a stream to appear, suggesting events are moving much faster than he expected. Suddenly, the cook runs toward him in a panic, shouting that they have a major problem. She reports that strangers have arrived, but the hero initially dismisses it, knowing new summons are common. The cook clarifies that these newcomers are armed and look highly unusual, causing the hero to take the situation seriously. The hero immediately understands that these arrivals must be high-ranked heroes. System notifications appear, informing the master that a mercenary group called the Pulverizing Wolves has arrived. Sounds fierce. The system explains that a strong bond links these 5 summons, making them more powerful when they fight as a single party. The hero looks at the fairy, who appears cheerfully and confirms that the master has spent more money on a beginner set. That's a pricey starter pack. This beginner set costs over 50,000 gold. Seeing Chloe trembling nearby, the hero realizes just how dangerous these heroes are. The hero tells the girl not to worry and instructs everyone to return to their duties. The scene shifts to the building's exterior, where a beautiful black-haired woman stands. The archer girl, Sure, runs toward her excitedly to greet her. The stranger, named Eddies, looks confused but returns the greeting. Sure introduces Eddies to Han, explaining that he is warm-hearted despite his cold exterior. The hero checks her status and immediately notices that she is a 3-star hero. Eddies is a thief with low strength but exceptionally high agility, preferring daggers to bows. The hero questions her intentions and invites her inside so they can speak more privately. Inside, she asks him if he knows about this place. He tells her he knows some things, but not everything. The hero then asks what she knows and whether she remembers how she arrived here. She lowers her gaze sadly and says the memory is unclear, but she remembers being brought here to fight. Her head hurts whenever she tries to recall details. The hero becomes curious about what she knows regarding synthesis. The girl slowly explains that synthesis is a process where someone becomes stronger by absorbing others. Hearing this, the hero realizes that new summons have different knowledge gaps depending on their rank. Looking at her clothes, the hero asks if she was a mercenary before. The girl confirms she was part of the Pulverizing Wolves and adds that she was working in Halcyon when she suddenly woke up here. This tells him that she is not only part of the mercenaries, but also quite skilled among them. Impressive resume. The archer girl comments that her story is very interesting, and the mercenary shyly asks if she truly thinks so. At that moment, a voice calls for her and a bunch of other heroes, saying the master needs them. Time to rally. The hero points to the window and tells her that the plaza is calling for her and her friends. A muscular man steps out of a room, grumbling and asking who called him. She stands up and says the master needs them, so they must go. While chewing on meat, The guy says he has not tasted something this good in a long time and is curious to meet their master. After the man storms out and slams the door behind him, the cook runs into the hallway in fear. She explains that he demanded meat and ended up collecting an entire mountain of it, enough to feed 5 people. The archer becomes angry after hearing this and insists they must make him return it. The hero stands up and suggests they all go to the square together. The newcomers gather and decide to rename their party the Pulverizing Wolves. A system notification confirms the party's formation and places the heroes into their assigned slots. Their party consists of all 3-star heroes, including Jakin, Wave, Banin, Eddies, and Avant as the leader. Meanwhile, in the square, a man complains that something feels off about them, especially since they carry weapons. The hero casually mentions that he also has one. The man tries to come up with excuses, but the hero asks if they truly seem like bad people. They immediately agree to the plan, especially since the new summons look exceptionally strong. The hero turns to the archer girl and asks for her opinion. She says the girl seems normal, but the others are difficult to judge. The hero turns to the group and asks if they want him to project them. When they confirm, he smirks and asks if they expect this help for free. Generous, not really. A frightened man says they only ask because he is strong. The hero looks at them with arrogance, pointing out that they skip training constantly yet beg for help now. Everyone is shocked at his bluntness. He thinks to himself that none of them are even close to Dika's strength, as they only focus on avoiding synthesis. The hero warns them to leave before he becomes angry. Terrified by his threat, the man quickly hurries away with the rest of the group. The hero turns to the spearman and explains that while the spearman was bleeding and surrounded by goblins, these losers spent their time eating and sleeping comfortably. Talk about bad timing. He tells everyone that he does not deserve anyone's sympathy, then notices the new kid with bruises on his face and asks whether he got into a fight. The boy replies that it was just a simple duel, and he advises him to take a break for now. Meanwhile, the new party walks out of the dungeon, with not a hint of worry on their faces. It seems the job was far too easy for them, so they leave the area calm and victorious. The group's leader spots him sitting outside and asks who he is. He answers arrogantly that it is none of their business, which clearly irritates the mercenaries. The leader introduces himself as Avant de Jacques, and he replies that he used to be a farmer. The leader makes a strange face, as if calling him weak, then asks whether the people gathered are the only ones in the lobby. Suddenly, the master summons 10 creatures in a row, leaving him completely confused. Things start to click when the master opens the synthesis chamber to sacrifice the new summons, and the newly born heroes stand in shock as the fairy pushes them inside. A muscular warrior grabs 2 of the terrified newcomers and hauls them toward their fate. An archer girl protests, saying it is unfair because they are not even getting a proper chance. He thinks silently that the master is messing up by ignoring the rare gems hidden among the heroes. A 3-star hero struts out of the chamber, bragging that he feels a lot stronger after the synthesis. The fairy calls out more names, and the remaining prisoners scream and beg for mercy. The mercenary leader draws his weapon and orders his men to stop any escape attempts. He spots the dark-haired girl standing quietly and asks why she is hesitating even though she belongs to the group. She reluctantly draws her dagger to obey her leader's command. The hero starts chasing the new summons and suddenly tells the fairy to send the master some advice. He wants the master to stop merging heroes blindly and to test them first. Sounds like a reality check moment. She opens her floating keyboard and types a warning that valuable heroes could be lost otherwise. Talk about a high-tech note-taking session. The big guy becomes irritated by the hero's interference, steps forward, and tells him to stay out of their business. The hero calmly replies that he is not interfering at all. He is just giving the master some advice. With a smug grin, he looks at the man and asks whether he is not satisfied with how things are going. The large man lashes out with his axe, but an arrow whizzes past his head. The archer girl says she missed on purpose, which only makes the big man angrier. Pointing his blade at him, the party leader asks whether he even knows who they are. He answers confidently that the group is nothing more than trash. The system instantly flags that the hero has shown hostility toward the new party. All the mercenaries glare at him in anger until the fairy steps in. The fairy holds out her hand and warns them that heroes are not allowed to fight each other. She adds that the master will punish them if they continue. He tells her there is no such rule, watching her nervously realize she cannot find an excuse. He turns to the men and says they should be honest. These are not really mercenaries, just a bunch of thieves. The leader loses patience, warns that he will not tolerate the insults, and asks whether he really wants to die. The hero turns back to the ferry and says heroes like these will only drag the settlement down. He explains that these men will cause chaos and become dead weight that should be removed. With a sly smile, the hero raises his hand and declares they should settle this with a duel. The system instantly announces that he has challenged the party leader. The man stares at him in disbelief and asks what they did to deserve this. The hero tells the man to think of him as a mad dog that bites anyone nearby, noting that he knows exactly what kind of people they are. He points out that they gathered the townsfolk in the square just to see if anyone strong lived there, and when everyone turned out weak, they lost all fear, like a bizarre talent show gone wrong. Talk about overreacting to a bad audition. He suggests deciding their fate in a duel, where the winner gets the right to consume the loser. The leader grins menacingly, clearly pleased, and the system confirms he accepted the duel and the special synthesis conditions. A confirmation message appears on the master's phone screen, but the master hovers over the no button for a long time. He wonders if the master is scared, tells the archer girl to lead everyone to safety, and says he is confident in his own skills. The master changes his mind, accepts the duel, and both fighters agree the battle will end only when one admits defeat. The leader knows he needs a living hero for the sacrifice, not a corpse. He glances at the fairy and asks her to stop any outside interference. The leader attacks right away, annoyed that he does not even draw his sword. The hero studies him and realizes his strength is around 20. Suddenly, the hero enters a berserker state, his eyes glowing bright red. The opponent clearly underestimated him. The hero's true level is far higher than expected. As soon as the duel starts, he moves like lightning and dodges the strike. He appears behind his enemy, grabs his arm, then slams his head into the ground with massive force. The newcomer lands face first on sharp stones, scraping his skin and crying out in pain. He does not hesitate. He spins his sword smoothly with one hand, showing total dominance. He drives the blade into the newcomer's side and orders him to stay still. The man screams, barely able to breathe, as he presses harder with his weapon, looking down with a cold grin and warning that it will hurt more if he keeps moving. Talk about a painful lesson in staying still.